Welcome to the basement.
Into the NFL Week 14 action.
Let's do it.
All right, so let's start off with the Jets because they lost 40-3. The Seahawks covered. Russell Wilson was taken out in the third quarter. They didn't wait till the fourth quarter to bench him. So that happened, and that's going to get that one out of the way first.
Yeah, rough game.
Really don't got anything to
Rough
say.
game.
Really don't got anything to say. I mean, it's two different sports what the Jets play and what the Seahawks play. But hey.
Hey, man. If Russell Wilson wanted to, he'd kick the shit out of Tebow baseball, all right?
Yeah, I heard
He
that.
literally
talking
just
smack.
said that.
He said that. Pardon my take. I heard that.
That is literally the least Tebow thing I've ever heard. I mean, the least Russell Wilson thing I've ever heard.
I just think that he really doesn't like Tebow. I think he's like, I am the ideal quarterback, Christian baseball player in that order.
No, I don't think he doesn't like him. I just think,
Nah, he's I don't know.
I don't know. I definitely think he might be a little bit like, hey, why the fuck are we all on this guy's jock? I'm doing the same thing, but just way better.
He's a lot better. Tebow Mania was just a whole different animal.
It was fun,
Anyways.
though. It was kind of like Linsanity. It wasn't really a thing, but it was fun.
It was a thing. Insanity was fun for a couple of weeks. As you can see, I'm a New York Knicks fan wearing the shirt. Not that applies to those of you listening on the podcast. Let's get into some real football, though. Let's start it off. The Bears at home destroyed the Texans by the score of 36-7.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bears needed it to stay alive. They're 6-7, so snapped a six-game losing streak.
But I was surprised to see that offense get going like it did. Like that David Montgomery run on, I think it was his first carry, wasn't it?
Yeah, 80 yards for a touchdown. Finished the game averaging 10 yards a carry. Mitchell Trubisky had 3 touchdowns. Wow. What a
Wild.
Statement game for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah. Like I said, every time Trubisky does bad, he comes back with a game like this, and you're just like, is he good?
I think he got better protection, though, because usually he's getting sacked constantly. He only got sacked 3 times today, whereas Watson on the other side got sacked 6 times. That's insane.
Yeah, but they're dealing with a lot of stuff right now. Fuller's out. I think there's a couple more injuries on their offense right now.
Yeah, Brandon Cooks was out. Fuller,
Yeah.
as we know, suspended. So they were down to using... the guy's name's Chad Hansen. I've never heard of him, but he sounds like he's a 90s singer.
Yeah, I actually do agree with that statement.
Rough year for the Texans because they're now 4-9, and their first round pick, I should say, is going to the Miami Dolphins, which
Who
could
looked
be
great today, too.
our great segue is that they covered the spread. It was 33-27. The Chiefs did win in Miami.
They almost won that game, too, before they gave it away.
I don't know if you know this, but when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes played that game in Miami. They mentioned it constantly throughout the broadcast. They're like, oh, well, last time he played here, he.
They have to. It's one of the commentating laws of the world.
Yeah, it's etched in stone. The defense though for Miami looked incredible. Like they picked off Mahomes twice in the first quarter.
And that nasty one-handed pick in the end zone.
That was insane. That was by far the catch of the day until we'll get to it later. But the Colts had an interception that was like at the same level. Either way, like Mahomes came into this game with I think 2 interceptions. Yeah, 2 interceptions on the season, and now he has 3 in the first half to the Dolphins.
But then goes and turns it around and scores 21 points in 2.5 minutes.
They were up 30-10, and the Dolphins battled back. Like Tua hung in there for 300 yards. They're doing it without much of any running backs. DeAndre Washington filled in because Gaskins has COVID. Like I give the Dolphins a lot of credit for sticking in this game.
Yeah, I really do. They played very well. I feel like they showed they're a real threat. And I don't know what adjustments Andy Reid made in the second half, but it it worked.
Well, they got an amazing run from Tyreek Hill where he broke off for a 32-yard touchdown. So that's just one of those. Tyreek Hill is going to be faster than any defense. So the
True.
Dolphins can play it perfectly. I think
and
Brian
still
Flores
get burned.
like Brian Flores was in the conversation, still is in the conversation for Coach of the Year. But I mean, we don't do moral victories in the NFL. That's probably as good as you can feel after losing to the defending champions. Knowing
Yeah.
that your rookie quarterback was able to keep you in the game.
Yeah.
It's-
That was it was a crazy game. The whole first half, you were sitting there thinking, like, oh, someone might have figured them out. Like, the Dolphins are the real deal. And I still leave the game thinking the Dolphins are the real deal. But just the way Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes can just go and take over a football game whenever the fuck they feel like it.
Yeah, but the Dolphins definitely were showing. They
a
looked like
lot.
they looked
They
like
were showing a
kryptonite
lot.
for a minute because they made Patrick Mahomes look vulnerable. You know, like he wasn't in his game when he was throwing the ball. In the second half, he turned it up and ended up with nearly 400 yards.
No, I agree. If they battle back and make it in as a wild card, they could be a problem in the postseason because they're surging at the right time.
Right, and the Bills right now are losing, so they're not losing any ground in the AFC East. They play each other, Dolphins and Bills, last game of the season. Who knows? That could be a playoff championship for the AFC East.
Could be.
That would be fun. Let's go out to the Meadowlands, where the New York Fumble Giants. Oh, did I say fumble? Sorry, that one slipped away. I practiced those.
Man.
Practiced those. Danny drops his back. I mean, it was 26-7, but it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't like the Cardinals were playing a great game. In the first half, Jones fumbled it twice. He picked one back up. They fumbled on a kickoff, and the 2 turnovers set the Cardinals up, and they got a touchdown and a field goal. It was 13-0 at the half. 10 points off the Giant fumbles. They were right in that game, the Giants.
Yeah. I'm really not sure what happened other than, Daniel Jones has been out a little bit. He's just trying to get it back together. That's really the only thing I can really think because he was on a run before all this happened. You know what I mean? Like,
it seems like there's a chance his leg isn't fully healed because I don't think the Cardinals have that good of a defense where the Giants just look like they had nothing.
I know, but it's still like, I don't know, when someone's coming back like that, like I don't hold as much weight over it in the first couple games because just you hear it from players all the time. The timing in the NFL is just different. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. So but that's what
but
I
just-
think is like.
Just getting out of it for a little bit, like it gives you that split second, and then when you're not trying to think out of the word of this, I'm sorry.
You're saying like just by being away from having the first team reps.
It
To,
just
like, set 'em back a little bit?
it just gets your timing off. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. You're definitely dead on there because you could see it where he was just missing guys or was making the reads and then not realizing how much time he had in the pocket.
And then you revert back to your old ways when faced with a certain type. Like you revert back to what you're more comfortable doing, and I think that's something that led to the drops.
So the problem for me with the Giants now is next week they play the Browns, who we know have Myles Garrett and will get after Jones. Then after that they
100%.
play in Baltimore. They play the Ravens. So this game against the Cardinals was the one like I thought, okay, the Giants can win this and make some noise, as we were talking about on the last show.
Yeah. But no one
'Cause
expected them to beat the Seattle Seahawks. So
That's true. That's fair. It's a good trade-off. I mean, they end the year with the Dallas Cowboys, who made a little splash today. So the Giants could, need to win that game, and I don't know if they can't score at all with Daniel Jones looking the way he's looked. The Cowboys look good today. The Cowboys won 30-7.
yeah,
It was the
But
Andy Dalton revenge game.
Washington until Alex got hurt. They were looking pretty
Yes.
good themselves and still got the win though.
big day for the NFC East. A lot
Yeah.
happened.
Eagles won too. Eagles beat the
Yeah.
Saints.
I know. I picked them. I picked the Saints. I'm sorry, guys. Everyone, feel free to let me know how I ruined your Sunday by picking the Giants and the Saints. Fucking
Yeah,
NFC
but
East, man.
no one expected that game. No one expected that game.
Not at all. I mean,
Do you think the Eagles players gave up on Carson Wentz? This is probably a good way to segue into this game.
Yeah, I actually do, because you saw it last week when they made the switch to Jalen Hurts. They obviously, Jalen Hurts threw a touchdown, but they got a punt return for a touchdown. And I know putting a quarterback has nothing to do with the special team, other than you're just it's a
Hyped to
different
have someone
feel.
else. Yeah.
You just the whole air on the sideline. Like, Hurts didn't have an incredible game. He had 167 yards and touchdown, but he ran for 106 yards.
That's true.
Miles Sanders went off, 115 yards, 2 touchdowns. The defense woke up. Defense was getting after them. They had 5 sacks. I mean, it was just a different team.
The Eagles are really so fucked with this Carson Wentz contract because they even said it like, look, Carson Wentz is going to be our quarterback. Like, that's how we see him. Because they don't have an option. You can't cut a guy and still pay him $58 million a year.
No, it's not.
Or
50
for next
million
year.
A year. Yeah.
Or 58 for next year. You know what I mean? It's like 58 and then 28 and then like still 15 the third year or something like that.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. So they
can't cut him.
They're in such a bind because we've talked about this before, and I do think another team would take a chance on him, but not for that.
Not for 58 million, my guy.
Unless they could make it some way where the Eagles split and take a portion of his salary, and then I could see him going somewhere else, but that's a mess.
But they'd still have to take so much that I don't think it'd be worth it.
I don't know. If you could trade him, like, I don't know, I'm just looking at some other teams. The Bears quarterback played well, but I don't know. I just feel like there's so many opportunities that there are places he could end up. I think the Bears or the Jaguars.
Plus, just another thing to add into this, his injury struggles.
Yeah, that's a great point too.
Like, he's been staying healthy better this year. I mean, I don't think he's been hurt really at all. But before that, I don't think he ever completed a full season, except for maybe his rookie year.
Yeah, I mean, he had what was like looking like an MVP season, then he tore his ACL. He's battled back injuries. This year, he's been on the field. You know, he's been healthy. He's just been under pressure, just getting sacked. 50 sacks in 12 games. Like, he's had no help.
I agree, but
I think he's made mistakes too, but he's been getting no help on top of his miscomings.
No, I 100% agree with you on there, but I don't think any of that's going to make up for the fact that they're going to have to pay him $58 million a year. I don't think someone's taking a portion of that. I don't think, at least not a big enough portion where it's going to be worth it to the Eagles.
I wonder what they'll do going forward.
I just think they have no option but to keep him, at the very least for next year. 28 million's a lot more to move, a lot easier to move than 58 million.
I'm just talking about like next week, because next week they play the Cardinals. Who starts there? Do you go with Wentz or do you ride the hot hand with Jalen Hurts?
I'd probably go Hurts.
I think you have to. I mean, yeah, if he was able to get the win. I think this was also kind of a trap game for the Saints, where like next week they're playing Kansas City, which is what, very likely could be a Super Bowl matchup. And I think they just took this for granted. The rookie quarterback, no problem, and Sean Payton dropped the ball.
Yeah, I can definitely agree on that. And I also thinking they were just feeling themselves like, no matter who's quarterback, we're winning all these games, blah, 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 blah. And no one expected the Eagles to beat the Saints. So like you said, perfect idea, like perfect place to have a trap game.
Yeah, absolutely. I
think it was a perfect storm from both sides. I think the Eagles with the switch kind of got a little life put into them, and the Saints were maybe focused on Kansas City, maybe sniffing their jocks a little bit.
Yeah, I think they just got caught looking ahead, and But right behind them, I mean, the Tampa Bay Bucks, another of my picks, they won. So the Bucks are looking like they will be a playoff team. I don't want a hot Tom Brady coming, a Bucks team that's playing well coming into the playoffs. I don't know if I want to face them. And with the Saints losing that game, the Saints are not the number 1 seed anymore. The bye goes to Green Bay.
Yeah, and like you're saying with that is not only a hot Tom Brady, but just right at the time where all these pieces on offense will probably start figuring each other out, especially now after adding in Antonio Brown and stuff like that, where everyone's going to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so let's get into that for a second because that was one of the picks for the week. I went 3-2. I went 3-2 last week. 60% of the time, it works every time. Tom Brady threw for 2 touchdowns. He actually didn't throw the ball much, only 23 attempts, but they didn't really need to. They would just kind of, this game went very, very fast. A lot of running plays. This game, the first quarter took, I think, 22 minutes, like real time.
Wow. That's actually super short. Holy fuck.
The Vikings had the ball 93 minutes, most of possession, and the Vikings actually had more yards than the Bucks.
Really?
Yep, but then
But yards don't mean shit if you can't score.
can't score in the touchdowns. Yeah, Dalvin Cook had a nice game. They just couldn't get in the end zone. Stop him on 4th down, and I think that's got to be pretty much it for the Vikings.
Yeah.
6-7.
It was it was a nice run, but I don't think with the teams that are still around, I don't think anyone's making the postseason at 9-7 this year.
Yeah, I doubt it. I mean, they play the Bears next week, so both of those teams will be 6-7. That'll be a fun game in the sense that like one of those teams will rise to 7-7.
Yeah, and that'll be fun just in looking down the line in the future, hopefully.
And then the Vikings play the Saints, which is going to be fun because I feel like that's just a playoff matchup that happens every year. Miracle in Minnesota and whatnot.
Yeah.
And they end with the Lions. Speaking of the Lions, we did not talk about the Lions, who lost to Green Bay. Packers win 31-24. Aaron Rodgers being Aaron Rodgers. The guy threw for 290 yards, 3 touchdowns. He ran for a touchdown. And
old man Rodgers.
Yeah, as dominant as that game was, like Green Bay was in firm control of the Lions with Chase Daniel as the quarterback because Matt Stafford got hurt. The Lions came down, kicked a field goal. The Lions covered the spread.
Let's go. We love
anybody
covering the spread.
Yeah, that's all it's about on this show. All it's about.
Yeah. Just Green Bay's all the teams that like there were times throughout the year where we were like, I don't know. They all seem to be surging right as we're getting into like playoff talk. You know what I mean?
The Bucks looked really good. Green Bay has looked really good like the last 3 games they've played since the Bears game. Then last week they beat up on the Eagles. Like the Packers are looking good. Devontae Adams is such a freak, man.
The Browns are looking good. Like all the teams that we're like in the beginning of the year, we were like, yeah, I don't know about them. If the teams that didn't fall off are all surging going into the playoffs. And that, I feel like, is just going to make for a very, very exciting playoffs, especially in the first round.
Playoffs are going to be so much fun. You know, one of the first round games this year is going to be played on Nickelodeon. Yeah,
with like a special like kids broadcasting type to like make them be able to understand it more.
110% chance that whoever wins the NFC East is going to be on the Nickelodeon game.
Let's go.
Washington football team, congrats. You're going to be on the Giants if they get in. Yeah, you're Nickelodeon game.
Yo, could you imagine Alex Smith, after all he went through to get back into the league, all of a sudden he has fucking SpongeBob and Patrick commentating his game or some shit.
Right.
Like the fucking disrespect.
They're showing his leg injury and they're just like, oh, let's see if SpongeBob can sew it together. Like,
We're terrible people. We're going to hell.
It's not funny, but it's a little funny.
Just a
Speaking of that,
tad.
Alex Smith, hey, the Washington football team won the Alex Smith revenge game in San Francisco. Chase Young is a animal.
Yeah.
An animal. Sorry, grammar people. Chase Young had a sack. He forced a fumble. He recovered a fumble for a touchdown. He was defended 2 passes. He was on every play. There's just nothing the 49ers could do without Chase Young getting his hands involved.
Yeah, Chase Young is. I feel the same way about Chase Young this year that I did about Joey Bosa last year.
Yes.
It's just like, fuck,
Those Ohio
man.
State DNs.
It's really just like, fuck, man. Like, you're scary, and fuck.
He's going to need double teams. Yeah, every play, you have to put a second guy on him. Otherwise, he will get to the quarterback. He will get in the backfield.
Yeah, and he's got a mean streak in him. Like, just when you see him hit someone, he's hitting them. Like, he's doing legal hits. He's not doing. I'm not trying to say he's like. I'm not trying to say mean streak is in like, oh, like Vontez Perfect type
Right.
mean streak. I mean,
Like
just
Chase,
like I think he hits hard. He's
Yeah.
fucking.
he's
going
huge.
to-
He's so jacked.
He's going to take you down at any means necessary.
Dude, they're gonna have to like blur out his hits on Nickelodeon, and
Yeah, right. Like I
they're
don't.
gonna-
I think that might
Cosmo
make
and
it
Wanda are
rated
gonna
like
come
T
and,
for
like-
teen.
yeah, the Cosmo and Wanda are gonna come and just be like, yeah, no, you can't see this shit. Just cover it. Poor
I
Alex
really-
Smith though.
I really want to know how that whole Nickelodeon thing's gonna work out. Like that's fucking crazy.
They're just gonna randomly be like, oh, we're filling in time here because someone's leg is not looking too good.
Yeah. What if a catastrophic injury? They have to have it on tape delay, wouldn't they?
Yeah, you'd think so, right? Like, you don't want Dak Prescott's ankle facing the wrong direction.
Like, yeah, it's got to be at least on like 5-minute time delay, just in case, or like if no one can be mic'd up in that game. There is no miking up.
I was just about to say, especially with no crowd, you can just hear all the trash talk.
Because they're not going to give a fuck. They're gonna be sitting there like someone's going to come into their head. SpongeBob says don't curse. Fuck you, don't curse. This is football. Like,
You know, at least half the players are going to be like, oh, they don't want me to curse? Fuck yeah, I'm going to curse.
yeah.
Unless it's Juju, then he would just be built for Nickelodeon.
No, yeah, they should put the Seahawks in that game. Just to mic up Russell Wilson.
Oh, that would be fun.
Or
See it?
or if the Colts make it, Phillip Rivers.
Phillip Rivers, that's a game we did not get to yet, but Phillip Rivers and the Colts 44-27 in Las Vegas. The Colts are 9-4. They're behind the Titans because of the tiebreaker, but the Colts are looking good.
Yeah, and Phillip Rivers, I feel like every time his name starts circulating in the media, like, oh, this guy's not doing too well. He's not doing as good as like people think he is. He goes off and has a game.
Up to Bills just scored a defensive touchdown. They're now winning 10-9-7. Yeah, pick 6.
Let's go.
Oof. Roethlisberger throwing pick 6. Back to Phil Rivers. I recently included him in my most recent fantasy football article. I said to play Phil Rivers because he's not the splashiest name. He's not the spiciest guy. He's Phil Rivers. He's not going to go nuts and give you 30 points and win you your week. He's just the guy that minimizes the chance of putting up 5 points. Yep. He was projected to get 17 on ESPN, and like a true American, he scored 17.76. So he knows what's good. Jonathan
he did
Taylor,
his job and then a little extra.
He did it for the country. Jonathan Taylor, dude, the rookie, 150 yards flat, 2 TDs. He was just tearing up the Raiders.
Yeah, the Raiders were starting to look legit. Well, everyone thought they were legit because they beat Kansas City and gave them a little trouble in the next game, but
I feel like that next game was such like a moral victory for them of being like, we held it within 5 points against the Chiefs, and then they were so happy about that the next week they got their shit rocked by the Falcons. That was embarrassing. They needed a miracle with the dumbest play call of all time to beat the Jets, the worst team in football. And this week at home, they got blown apart by Phillip Rivers, Like, not that Phillip Rivers, again, he's not bad. He's just not the guy who you're like, he's gonna go nuts.
We understand what he is in Indy. He's a stopgap. It just is what it is.
Do you think he's gonna be there next year?
I think it depends on what happens with free agency. I think if they can get someone else, they will.
See, I could see them.
I could definitely see him still being there in more of like a backup role, or a just in case role. And then if they get like a younger guy like a Carson Wentz, like we're talking about, like a lot of people are talking about, which I do not want for them.
You know who they're gonna get?
Who's that?
You're about to say it. I know you are. Sam Darnold's going to be an Indianapolis Colt.
Yeah.
I think the second the Jets take Trevor Lawrence,
I would like
they're
that.
I would like that too. The Colts always have a great offensive line, and Darnold doesn't know what that is. He's just not experienced with it.
He has never met one. Not in his whole life.
He's going to show up his first day of practice as an Indianapolis Colt, see what the linemen are doing, and are like, you guys allowed to do that?
He's just like, yo, I have so much time. Can I get a snack? Like,
wait, when I throw the ball, I'm not gonna just be hit right away? What? It's gonna be brand new. But dude, the Colts are 9-4. They're making a run. The Raiders now 7-6. I think they're probably not gonna make the playoffs at 10-6, and that's their best case.
Yeah, I really don't believe so at this point. They just had too much go on this season. With their COVID stuff, you never know who's like not really, because it stays with you after. Like you might be healed, like you might have gotten better, but like from what I hear, you still feel it in your lungs for months after. You get into like a fog almost after, like.
Yeah, like we were saying, the brain fog might have been impacting Cam Newton in those couple games after, because he missed the game against the Chiefs. They looked terrible. Then he missed a game against the Broncos, I believe. And then he came back and was not looking himself.
Yeah, and a lot of people have talked about that.
Speaking of the Broncos, like their COVID quarterback crisis, they came out and Drew Lock, not Luck, actually balled out. He had 4 touchdowns, 280 yards. The Broncos won their Super Bowl rematch with the Panthers. They won 32-27, which is a very weird football score. But Drew Lock balled out, 280 yards, 4 touchdowns, 21 of 27. That's better. That's 77%. Every time he has a bad 3-week stretch, and I'm like, okay, he's done. Like we've seen the tape. The jury's out on him. He goes and has a game like this. I mean, he balled out.
Like you said, it's the same way I feel about Mitch Trubisky. Every time we're getting to the point where he's just like, he's over, he'll have one game where he goes off, and you're just like, all right, I see what they're talking about.
Yes. But that's a great comparison. I mean, KJ Hamler, this rookie who wasn't one of the more talked about rookie receivers, had 2 catches, 86 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jerry Jeudy, he's going to be there for the future. He's balling out with Noah Fant, who left the game in the first quarter, which killed one of my fantasy teams. Like, I don't even want to talk about that. And then, I mean, he's done it all year without Cortland Sutton. This is a defense that, when they get Von Miller back, will be a very good defense. Maybe the Broncos, they're cooking something up for the next couple of years.
Yeah. I definitely see the building blocks they have. It's whether they can capitalize on them.
It's such a tough division.
And it's hard when you have a quarterback who's playing like that. It's just like, do you or do you not? Do you pull the trigger or do you run with the guy? Like, you know what I mean?
Right. It's like the inconsistency, it's got to drive you nuts as a fan. Do you buy back in? Do you pull out? Do you buy back in? Do you want him? I don't know. That's nuts. But the AFC West is such a tough division. That's why we got the helmets on the mixer right there on screen.
Let's go.
Because the Chiefs, we know, are going to run the division as long as Patrick Mahomes wants to. Like, that's them. The Chargers have a great rookie quarterback. We'll talk about the Chargers in a minute. Like, the Chargers get the right coach, they'll be good. The Raiders, John Gruden's made
The Raiders,
more.
the Raiders are right on the verge of breaking out.
He's made more out of them than I expected, so I think that's going to be a real fun division to keep our eyes on for the future.
Yeah, but I feel like the Raiders are at the point where either next year they're gonna start going down, or they're gonna figure it out. Like they're at that crucial tipping point where, like, this is where you find out if the moves are really paying off.
Drew Lock, the way we're saying he's so inconsistent, Mitch Trubisky's so inconsistent. I think the same thing is with Carr, where like he can have big games, and we saw him against the Falcons have a terrible game.
Yeah, he's definitely that type of guy too. Though I'd feel better with Carr than with a Trubisky or a Lock. I feel like he's shown you a little more. Like
Yeah, I guess
he's shown that ability to take over a game, where I feel
That's
like
true.
the other two haven't.
that's true. But Lock has these games where if he needs to put up the numbers, like he will.
Yeah, but I never feel like he's the one taking over the game. You know what I mean? But that's also sample size, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know. He's too football young, I guess. Where like he's been in the
Yeah.
league, but he had the injury, and then this year they had the COVID situation where like, yes, he's a veteran in the sense that he's been around, but he's also like very minimal tape
He
on
hasn't
him.
played a lot.
Exactly. But speaking of the AFC West, I want to talk about the Chargers because man, Anthony Lynn has no idea what he's doing.
Yeah.
You see, at the end of the first half, the Chargers have no timeouts left. 3rd and 1. They run the ball.
Yeah,
And
what are
then
you doing, my guy?
They put they left the offense out. Herbert, Keenan Allen, everybody's out. The last second they run on the kicking team, didn't even get the kick off. Like, you're an NFL coach. You got to be more aware of the situation.
That was a move that Todd Bowles was just like, learn clock management, my guy.
Right? Like, oh my god, dude.
Like, fuck. That
The
was
Chargers,
big.
the Chargers ended up winning this game, but if they lost, I don't know how you keep Anthony Lynn.
Yeah, and they had all these weapons in past years with Phillip Rivers, and like you said, in the past few years he hasn't been a world beater, but he's consistent. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And he has a lot of weapons around him. They should have won a lot more than they have been.
They won this game mostly because the Falcons just collapsed. The Falcons were winning 17-10 at the half, and the final score was 20-17. The second
Yeah.
half, literally, I think in the last 6 minutes of the game, Matt Ryan got picked off. The Chargers get the ball, try to move down. Herbert gets picked off. Then, like, the next series, Ryan gets picked off again. It was just a sloppy.
Wait. You're telling me Matt Ryan and the Atlanta Falcons fell apart in the second half?
I'm floored, man. I just don't see how this. This is
don't
shocking to
believe
me.
it.
Matt Ryan, you needed him to just hand the ball off and kill some clock. No, dude.
He's the best at that, dude.
I think he's got to move. He's got to
Yeah.
want out. Like just like we've talked about on the show before, the mental trauma from that Falcons 28-3. Like that's what you're synonymous with. Matt Ryan. Maybe you go to the Colts. Maybe you go to the Bears. Hey, I don't know.
Brady's the QB killer.
He's just not the same. He's not the same person. I blame Belichick, dude. Belichick's
Yeah.
defense just baffles people. We saw it with Herbert last week. Herbert came back this week and looked good. Like
He made Sam see ghosts. He did that to Goff. He did that to Matty Ice. Remember when he was Matty Ice? Ever
Yeah,
since that game, he had like Matty Ice has been dead.
he's he sneaky won the MVP that year.
Yeah.
I think the only game we haven't talked about yet is the Tennessee Titans winning 31-10 over the Jaguars. The Jags, like, you got to give the Jags credit because they somehow won their first game of the year, beating the Colts. I'm sorry, man. This thing just keeps popping up. They beat the Colts and then have lost 12 straight. So any other year, they'd probably be the worst team in the NFL.
Yeah. Which sucks. It really sucks.
Yeah.
But because now we have to go 0-16 because there's they're not. Like, not that I expect them to win this game, but it's at the point where they don't have anything they can win.
Dude, I literally opened the ESPN app just to check the box score, and I started playing a video. So I closed the app and I tossed it aside, and it still was making the noise.
Yeah,
So,
it happens.
ESPN, you guys are kind of jerks for that one.
Yeah, figure it out, my guy.
All right, so
Yeah, Derrick Henry though had a fucking night. 215 yards, 2 touchdowns.
and he
fuck-
came out in the fourth quarter too. They protected their investment, but if he wanted to, I would easily see him getting 265 in that game.
Yeah,
Like,
like
great.
he could have, especially against a Tyreek defense, he could have gone up into that top 10 all time in a game for sure.
Easily could have hit the record books. Also, did you see in the beginning, the first quarter, AJ Brown reached out, makes this incredible one-handed grab.
Monster.
Dude,
And he's a guy who's known like for not having the best hands.
Nah, he
and-
looked like Spider-Man on that one. Just
Yeah,
got it.
that was
Such
a
a great catch.
monster catch, monster game by the Titans. Again, another team that, like, at some point in the season, you were just like, yeah, I don't know. Like, they
Yeah.
could go either way, and they're just hitting at the right time.
Well, I had my doubts about them, especially with the first half last week against Cleveland, but they actually battled back and made that a one-touchdown game. So
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a team in the AFC, you never want to see Derrick Henry, especially at this part of the year when your defense is banged up, your defense is tired. That's when Henry feasts, and he got a nice game against the Jags, but he'll be fresh come playoffs.
Oh, yeah. He always surges even more at the end of the year, which is the complete opposite of any other running back in the league, and it's incredible.
It is, dude. He's he's a holiday season hero. Like, he just comes to life, which is perfect for the playoffs and fantasy.
All right, so now do you want to preview tomorrow's game?
Yeah, we can take a look at tomorrow's game between the Cleveland Browns and the Baltimore Ravens. It is in Cleveland. Last I saw, it was a pick'em. So Vegas doesn't have any opinion on it. Right now, I lied. It has moved to -3 Baltimore.
I'm probably gonna put money on that, cause I'm really feeling Browns all day.
You're feeling Browns all day? I'm glad you said that because I am too. I think the way that they came out last week, they showed that run game is almost untouchable.
And like we were saying, just we don't know how they're gonna deal with this whole COVID outbreak that they had. Like, you don't know if guys are really 100%, even if they are back.
Are you talking about Baltimore?
Yeah.
Right. Mark Andrews, man.
And
He's gonna play.
they've just been off all season. They haven't been what they were last year all this season. There
No,
was not one point.
They really haven't. I mean, Lamar's been looking better of late.
True.
Last week he looked good. Ingram and Dobbins are like they're good weapons, but like we always say, they don't have a receiver, so you can focus more on stopping the run when you have no deep threat to worry about.
And you can keep guys out of coverage to kind of spy or contain or whatever they need to do with Lamar Jackson.
Exactly, and you have Myles Garrett, and he's going to disrupt any offensive line. So when you have a guy like Lamar who scrambles out, the offensive line, they're just going to get tired, and eventually Myles Garrett's going to make his presence felt.
And you don't have your starting left tackle that you paid all that money, which is just going to make it even worse. I think the Browns win that game pretty handily.
I think that's a very big part of, like you were saying, the Ravens haven't looked like the Ravens this year, but I think it's because, like we said, Stanley went out, the left tackle was out, and they lost Marshall Yanda, who retired in the offseason, and he was like an all-pro. So the line, because you need to be an athletic line when you're running those triple options with Lamar and Ingram and J.K. Dobbins, who is insanely fast. I think that's going to be a really fun game.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a great game. I'm actually very excited for that one.
That's probably the most excited I've been for like a Browns game in a long time. Although next week the Browns-Giants are going to be on Sunday Night Football.
I was reading a stat on Baker, like his interception woes are gone, huh? I forget
Yeah.
exactly. I forget exactly. It was something like he hasn't thrown an interception in his last like 300 attempts.
Yeah, he's figured it out. He's been way more accurate, way more consistent.
I
mean,
I think it's spreading out the ball and not trying to force it to Odell.
Yeah, Jarvis Landry's having a hell of a year filling in for Odell, but the running game too, the Hunt with Chubb.
I know. I'm just speaking on. I'm not saying Baker Mayfield's the entire reason they're winning this year or anything like that. Like, no, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, best 1-2 punch in the game. You got to put a heavy credit on that run game. But Baker, like everyone was almost writing Baker off after last season, and he's coming out and fixing the problems. And he's playing
He hasn't
the right
thrown
way.
an interception in 5 weeks.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's got to be a huge improvement for him. Yeah, he threw 7 in the first however many games that was, first half of the season. So he's definitely figured things out. I think relying on the running game takes a lot of pressure off of him, so he's not forcing throws.
When did Odell go out?
That's a great question.
Sorry, as you can see, my computer's all tied up. Yeah, but I feel like those numbers would have to coexist with each other. And I don't really know if it's from his or from Baker's side, because I can see, as being Baker Mayfield, just knowing like, hey, this guy's Odell Beckham Jr., let's get him the ball. And you also, Odell came out in an interview, I think this week, saying like, look, I'm not going to be happy if we win the game, but I have 0 catches and I didn't help contribute.
Yeah, Odell seems like he's a me, not we guy.
No, I don't 100% think that, because if you talk to any player that plays with Odell, they say he's a great teammate. He's a great locker room guy. Everyone seems to like him. It's management maybe that might not like him so much, or it's the fans that are making a lot over his comments. But
well, we
the
knew that in
locker
New
room
York
seems to like him.
We knew that in New York that all of his teammates loved him, but it was the ownership and the Giants' way that, you know, they weren't in love with his
And the
antics and
media,
stuff.
honestly.
New York media is that's the New York media, man. They're just gonna rip anybody.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it is what it is. You kind of got to know what you sign up for.
I'm gonna be so mad if on the New York Post tomorrow, the front cover for the sports section says New York fumble Giants.
Probably.
They're
They're going to steal your line. You're
Dude,
gonna be very upset.
I'm gonna be so fucking pissed. Shit, send me my royalties at least.
Welcome to the basement.